What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. And I want to touch one more time on the co-angling deal. I had a couple questions. People were asking me, what rods do you take if you could take 5 rods as a co-angler? What are those 5 rods that you're going to take? And you're always going to have a couple 7-foot medium heavy rods. That is all around rod. You know, with the 7-foot medium heavy rod, you can throw a tube, you can flip a jig, you can throw a spinnerbait, you can throw a walking bait, a buzz bait. You can just do a lot of stuff with a 7-foot medium heavy rod. 7:1 gear ratio reel. It's all around reel. 14 to 16 pound fluoro. You can do most any technique with that. So that is what you're going to have. You need to have a couple of those. The next thing I would recommend is a spinning rod. As a co-angler, I am always going to have a spinning rod with me. That really plays in these tournaments. Now I'm going to have a shaky head or a Ned head, drop shot, or a wacky rig. That's the 4 main techniques that I will be fishing. If I'm fishing in a cold water period, I will probably actually have 2 spinning rods. And on that additional spinning rod, and grab this one, I'm going to have a small swim bait on there. This, you know, with 2 spinning rods, you can have one rigged up with a shaky head or a Ned head. The second one can be a small swim bait, a nickel rig, or a wacky rig. You know, you can skip that wacky rig around docks, throw this out in open water. I just, you know, 2 spinning rods is not out of the question. So you got 2 medium heavy, 7 foots, 2 spinning rods. Then you're going to have an auxiliary rod. Depending on the time of the year. Now, let me back that up on the spinning rod deal. 2 medium heavies, 7 footers, 1 spinning rod. And if you're fishing, like I'm getting ready to go to Table Rock. If you're fishing Table Rock, I'll throw that extra spinning rod in there as a co-angler. But most other lakes, you're going to have a couple different rods other than that spinning rod. So I'm going to be throwing a cranking rod in there most likely. You know, I'll be putting a lot of hours on this rock crawler. That's that time of the year. DT6 rock crawler. That's probably going to be the 2 crankbaits that I'm going to be throwing around the most right now. You're also going to need possibly a jerkbait rod. So jerkbaits are playing right now. So now I'm all the way up to 6. It's hard to keep it to 5, guys. It is really hard to keep it to 5. So you kind of got to make, you can go 7. 7 is a good number, but my questions were about 5. So let's go back, let's regress, simplify. 2 7-foot medium heavies, 1 spinning rod, and then 2 auxiliary rods. You got to figure out what you want. Do you want that cranking rod and the jerkbait? Or do you want to go with a heavier jig rod? Or do you want the Alabama rig rod? If you're fishing in grass lakes, your 2 auxiliary rods are going to be a frog rod and a punching rod. If you're fishing in the cold weather period, like I said, you're going to have an A-rig rod, probably a jerkbait rod. So you're going to have to decide between your jerkbait and your crankbait. And you can throw a jerkbait on a crankbait rod. So you're still at 5 rods. You know, that's the whole deal, is having a rod that's multifunctional. Can do multiple techniques with 1 rod. That's why your 7-foot medium heavies are so important. So that's kind of how I look at rod selection. Ideally, you want rods that can do more than one thing. Carolina rig, that's another really good rod to have as a co-angler. Can kind of do that on a 7-foot medium heavy, but really I like a 7'6", a little bit on the heavier side. So that could be an auxiliary rod if you're fishing offshore. In the summertime, you could actually have a swim bait rod that will also work as a Carolina rig. That would be your auxiliary rod. That's really it. I'm trying to keep this simple, just trying to answer a few questions that I had about that. I hope this helps. Just bottom line is you always want as many rods that you can do multiple things with in your arsenal. That way you've got a lot of options. So appreciate this, guys. Hope this helps, and until next time.